Just broad-based declines across all of the major technology sectors. Apple's under pressure. Yahoo down 8.5%. Cisco 6.5%. Research in Motion 10%.
And we're not getting the bid wanted. We're not getting the stop trading, and we see where the buyers are. We're just every day they're pounding it.
When people are first introduced to investing, it is often portrayed as a safe way to guard your money against inflation and other macroeconomic factors. We are told that periods of losses are short and that we can only expect to crash about every decade. Oftentimes, to find true volatility, one must shift their focus away from index funds and towards individual securities. Here's where the true chaos and unpredictability of the market can be seen. Not only do individual stocks have to worry about the macroeconomic factors surrounding the general economy, but also micro factors around their industry and themselves. When the chips are down, this can result in billions of dollars lost in a single day in a single company.
Offer 68 even dollar trading.
I'm lovable, but what I really want to do is I want to reach in, rip out their heart, and eat it before they die.
In 1990, Jan de Boer developed the disaster severity scale as a way to standardize the severity of certain catastrophic events. The scale organizes action into 6 categories ranging from emergencies to extinction. For the purpose of this video, I have created my own scale organized by similar principles. Let's start off by analyzing the best of the worst and working our way down the totem pole of shame. The beginning of almost every crash starts with a simple emergency. The emergency comes in many forms, from an earnings miss to a change in executive leadership. An emergency is of least concern to most investors. Most are easily forgiven and forgotten. Some of the best performing stocks on Wall Street have even fallen victims to this type of crash. In November of 2022, NVIDIA would log an earnings miss that would send the stock falling around 10%. By the end of the month, the stock had recovered, and as of today, the stock is up almost 1,000%. However, with a simple emergency, it can't produce this all. Drops of 10% for an individual stock is so common that it can often be washed away from the front page news by other headlines. For a crash to truly make the front page, it must have a magnitude so great that the news is too big to be ignored. In early February of 2022, Meta, the parent company behind Facebook, was on a generational run, logging 5 straight days in the green before their earnings report. However, it was on that day that everything would change.
Did insiders, the richest customers, get information from the big banks that nobody else got?
It was a small change in a very important number that sent that ripple through the market.
Tension and financial challenges at Facebook.
As of today, the single-day loss in market cap is the worst in history. The stock was killed by 26% and $232 billion in market cap blew up in front of investors' eyes. A combination of factors from missing earnings to disappointing numbers of daily users contributed to an utter humiliation for the tech company. Mark Zuckerberg didn't quite help this situation either, announcing that the company would lose an additional $10 billion due to an Apple update that would implement new privacy changes that meant Meta could no longer feed advertisers tracking information on its customers. In particular, the tech sector seems to be especially prone to these types of disasters, as with extreme hype comes extreme disappointment when expectations aren't met. Chipmaker Broadcom learned a similar lesson that sometimes good isn't good enough. Despite being an earnings report in September, the stock fell around 20%. Investors were disappointed with the future revenue predictions, leading to even more carnage on the street. Yet again, the cost was billions of dollars lost within minutes. With all respect, these crashes were calamities for those who panicked and sold. They incurred massive losses on what were widely considered to be safe, profitable plays with mega-cap stocks that were widely considered to be too big to fail. However, what these stocks had, which won't be seen down the list, is an easy path to recovery. For Meta, this meant embracing the AI revolution, expanding on their virtual reality platform, and for Broadcom, this meant destroying their next earnings report, causing another change of 20%, this time in an upward direction. However, in some cases, redemption is a far-fetched dream. The life insurance industry is generally regarded as one of the safest investments a person can make. After all, as long as there are people, there is always the risk of someone dying. For this reason, millions of Americans load up insurance stocks into their retirement funds, hoping that steady growth over time will leave them with a pretty penny by the time they turn 65. It's not often that one of these stocks is front page news or trending. However, this all changed on April 11th of 2024 when the unthinkable happened. A short seller, Fuzzy Panda Research, would issue a short report that claimed that there was massive fraud at the life insurance agency Globe Life. Among other things, Fuzzy Panda would blame Globe Life employees with committing basically every crime on earth, from beating it in front of employees to bribing executives. Fuzzy Panda set their fair value estimate for the company at around $64, a 40% downside. Despite this, the stock would fall more than 55% in a single day. The fall would be enough to make headlines.
Close eye on Globe Life stock after it took a big hit less than 24 hours ago.
Melissa, shares of Globe Life were actually paused. The trading was paused because of the volatility, and they fell to their lowest level in more than 10 years.
Not all disasters are due to financial issues, though. In July of 2024, the cybersecurity firm CrowdStrike caused the biggest tech outage in all of history due to a faulty update. In the aftermath, the stock fell around 20%. These losses extended after Delta Airlines sued CrowdStrike for causing a travel crisis that left thousands stranded in airports across the world. Needless to say, the event was not taken lightly by the public. However, despite the large amount of backlash that both of these stocks received, both recovered the majority of their market cap within the next few months, and today, no one really cares. If you go and ask someone about either of the legacy of these two stocks, most analysts will give them a buy rating and then move on without saying much about the scandals that plagued them months before. However, not every stock is able to recover from these disasters, making them fit perfectly into our next category. In 2024, an AI boom hit the stock market, generating some of the highest returns the market had ever seen. Every day, some new obscure company became a global sensation, turning everyday traders into millionaires basically overnight. It seemed that everywhere one looked, nothing except success could be seen. One of these such stocks was Supermicro Computer, which specialized in data center servers. Their connection with darling stock Nvidia helped them skyrocket over 300% within 3 months. It seemed like the good news couldn't stop flowing in for the tech company, as it was added to the S&P 500 and strengthened its partnership with Elon Musk. Then, it all stopped. It all started with an earnings miss that sent the stock falling 20%. But things would go from bad to worse after short seller Hindenburg Research issued a report of the AI high flyer claiming massive accounting fraud was occurring behind closed doors. Then Supermicro's auditor quit. Then they were threatened to be delisted from the NASDAQ. Then they couldn't even report earnings guidance because no accounting firm would even work for them. When the bloodbath was over, the stock had dropped nearly 86%. Even with a PE ratio in the single digits, the stock struggled to move upwards. The glory days were over, and investors who had previously held one of the best performing stocks on Wall Street were left to pick up the pieces and wonder what had become of what they once thought as their one-way ticket to becoming a millionaire. Oftentimes, a catastrophe is longer and drawn out. Such was the case for technology firm BlackBerry. During the glory days of 2007, BlackBerry went by a different name, Research in Motion. The name was very fitting for the stock, as it seemed like the only motion investors would see was upwards. Its savvy tech for the time made it a hot stock that was a must-have for blue-chip investors. Even after the 2008 recession, the stock was a household name until 2011. Here's where the stock first started to decline. The introduction of the Apple iPhone created a rival to Research in Motion's core product, the BlackBerry. While most CEOs would have attempted to innovate, Jim Bastille was more interested in something else. Hockey.
As well. Back to McDavid, they score! A couple of end-to-end rushes, 38 seconds into overtime. McDavid.
With no new products or real improvements, Research in Motion started a slow, painful fall to the bottom. Perhaps the most well-known scam is the common pump and dump. It's a scam so simple that even a 15-year-old has done it. The scam is commonly associated with shady websites and unsavory businessmen. On possibly the other side of the spectrum was Henrik Fisker, a respected businessman and automotive designer known for creating the BMW Z8 and Aston Martin V8 Vantage. Despite his success with established players in the automotive industry, Henrik sought to create his own brand of car and in 2007 launched Fisker Automotive. Their core and sole product was the Fisker Karma, a hybrid sports car that sought to rival the likes of the Tesla Roadster. Despite a promising start, the startup crashed and burned after failing to meet production quotas set by the Department of Energy. The company was declared a debacle by the New York Times and sold its assets to a Chinese conglomerate for next to nothing. However, this story isn't about that Fisker, it's about what came after. Despite the disaster that his former project was, Henrik wasn't ready to give up yet, and in 2016 he created Fisker Inc. with the hope of becoming what his former project failed to be, a major player in the automotive industry. What followed was a series of lies, delays, and bad financial decisions that ended the company. In 2022, the stock listed on the New York Stock Exchange valued at around $3 billion. The lies surrounding the stock started small in 2021 when Henrik announced that he would be creating a new car for the Pope set for delivery by 2022. However, the car was never delivered or even produced. Henrik followed this fib with an even bigger lie that the company was sold out into 2023. This was yet again a flat-out lie. Henrik's goal with these lies was simple, to inflate the market cap of his stock so when he released more securities onto the stock market, they would be more valuable and keep the failing car company alive. This might have worked, but Henrik's erratic and frankly stupid behavior got in the way. During production, he made a last-second decision to change the wheels on the car, hindering an already delayed production. As a result, they fell short of production quotas, and sales also disappointed for the company. What came in 2024 was a wave of crippling blows to the company as they were put under investigation by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, lost track of customer payments, laid off staff, and were delisted from the New York Stock Exchange. Seeing no other option left, on June 18th of 2024, the company filed for bankruptcy. Not every stock in this category was doomed from the start. In the mid-2010s, Spirit Airlines was one of the fastest-growing airline companies, offering low rates to a variety of destinations. The business was about as boring as one could expect, and the company was all but set for life in the unassuming industry. Then, COVID hit. The airline industry was hammered and Spirit was hit by a double whammy of both customers who wanted less and employees who wanted more. Spirit Airlines was forced to raise wages during the pandemic while sales were falling. This began a liquidation spree for Spirit Airlines as they laid off employees, cut routes, and sold off airplanes. Rivals took this as the perfect opportunity to infringe upon Spirit's main customer core, the cost-conscious consumer, and basically wipe Spirit's attractiveness off the face of the earth. This began an identity crisis for the airline as they attempted to reorganize and attract back customers. However, their reputation for being possibly the worst airline in existence plagued them as they were no longer even that much cheaper than competitors. They attempted to merge with JetBlue, which didn't work either, leaving the company to fend for themselves. In November of 2024, the inevitable happened and the company filed for bankruptcy. For investors in these companies, their only solace was that this was only one stock out of their entire portfolio that was affected. Oftentimes, like in real life, disasters are contained to a certain area or in the case of the stock market, a certain industry. However, there is still one last category that remains: extinction. In the 1880s, three brothers would list a company on the New York Stock Exchange that specialized in the exchange of commodities, especially cash crops like cotton. As nods to their humble beginnings, they named the company Lehman Brothers. Over time, this company would expand and transform into one of the largest investment banks in the world, similar to a modern-day Morgan Stanley. Lehman Brothers specialized in fixed income trading, or the buying and selling of assets that provide a fixed stream of interest payments over time. Key among these investments were mortgage-backed securities. However, during 2007, a subprime mortgage crisis was looming. People who had no real way to pay off their mortgages were obtaining massive loans to houses in an inflated market. As these borrowers began defaulting, Lehman Brothers was stuck with worthless contracts and was bleeding money as it attempted to reduce risks and sell off the securities, oftentimes for a loss. The writing on the wall could be seen from miles away as short sellers hopped on the bandwagon train, pounding the stock price of the firm. Lehman Brothers reported a $2.6 billion loss, making them fall even farther, and at this point, it was all clear what would happen next. The government saw the impending crisis if one of the biggest firms in the world went underwater and suspended all short selling in an attempt to protect investors of all corporations shortly after the firm announced bankruptcy after multiple failed buyouts and mergers. However, the real disaster is what happened after. The shock of one of the biggest banks in the world failing was so great that not even the SEC ban on short selling could prevent the market from falling even more. In the immediate aftermath of Lehman's bankruptcy, the market fell an additional 3.4% the next day. Overall, the market fell 50% during the bear period that lasted from around 2007 to 2009. Perhaps Lehman wasn't solely to blame for the 2008 recession, but the fact that it had any impact at all is still remarkable. In popular culture, people like to think of there being some sort of overlords to their everyday lives, a person or a small group of people controlling the matrix that is their daily activities. Oftentimes, these beliefs fail to bear fruit. The Illuminati isn't controlling your mind, and Donald Trump isn't secretly a lizard person. In most practically every other case in this video, the disaster meant nothing to anyone but the investors of this singular company affected. Lehman was different. People lost money off of others' poor planning and corrupt practices. In the end, Lehman Brothers serves as a reminder of how fragile things really are and how any domino in the chain can cause a full-on collapse.